Greetings and a warm welcome to our channel. In this video, we will be discussing a question that has puzzled many historians and political analysts for decades. Why didn't the USA invade North Vietnam? The Vietnam War was one of the most devastating wars in modern history. But despite the USA's massive military and economic superiority, they never launched a full-scale invasion of North Vietnam. So why did they not invade North Vietnam, and what were the factors that influenced this decision? Let's find out. Before we delve into the reasons for the USA's decision not to invade North Vietnam, it's important to understand the context of the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was fought between the Communist government of North Vietnam and the government of South Vietnam, which was supported by the United States. The war lasted for over a decade and saw some of the most intense fighting and devastating consequences in history. Reasons for not invading North Vietnam. Fear of Chinese and Soviet intervention. The fear of Chinese and Soviet intervention was a major reason why the USA did not invade North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. Both China and the Soviet Union were powerful communist nations that were aligned with North Vietnam and provided significant military and economic aid to the country. The USA was aware that a full-scale invasion of North Vietnam could lead to a direct military confrontation with China and the Soviet Union, which would have escalated the conflict and caused even more devastation. The Chinese and Soviet forces could have intervened directly in the conflict by providing military aid, deploying troops, or launching attacks on U.S. forces. In addition, the USA was concerned that a military confrontation with China or the Soviet Union could have triggered a larger global conflict, as both nations were powerful and had nuclear capabilities. The USA was wary of the potential consequences of such a conflict and wanted to avoid a situation where they would be fighting a war on multiple fronts. Furthermore, the USA was aware that a military confrontation with China or the Soviet Union would have had political and economic consequences. A conflict with these nations could have led to economic sanctions, political isolation, and strained diplomatic relations with other countries around the world. Overall, the fear of Chinese and Soviet intervention was a significant factor in the USA's decision not to invade North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. The potential consequences of a direct military confrontation with these nations were too great, and the USA did not want to risk triggering a larger global conflict. Public opposition. Public opposition was another significant reason why the USA did not invade North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. The conflict was highly controversial and deeply unpopular with a significant portion of the American public, who were opposed to the war and its objectives. A full-scale invasion of North Vietnam would have been even more unpopular with the American public, as it would have signaled a significant escalation of the conflict and the potential for a prolonged and bloody war. The American people were already weary of the war and its toll on American soldiers and resources, and a full-scale invasion of North Vietnam would have been seen as a reckless and unnecessary move. Moreover, the potential for political instability and unrest at home was another concern for the USA. The anti-war movement in the United States was already strong, and a full-scale invasion of North Vietnam could have further fueled public anger and protests. This could have led to political turmoil, social unrest, and even violence in the streets. The political implications of public opposition were also a significant factor in the USA's decision not to invade North Vietnam. The government and military leadership were aware that a full-scale invasion of North Vietnam could have damaged the political standing of the U.S. government and eroded public trust in the country's leadership. Overall, public opposition was a critical factor in the USA's decision not to invade North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. The potential for political instability, social unrest, and damage to the country's political standing was too great, and the USA did not want to risk further inflaming public opinion against the war. Guerrilla warfare. The North Vietnamese army was highly skilled in guerrilla warfare tactics, and the USA was aware that an invasion of North Vietnam would have resulted in a protracted and bloody conflict. Guerrilla warfare is characterized by hit-and-run tactics, surprise attacks, and the use of ambushes, traps, and improvised explosive devices, IEDs. These tactics can be highly effective against conventional military forces, as they are designed to undermine the enemy's morale, disrupt their supply lines, and cause significant casualties. The USA was concerned that an invasion of North Vietnam would have resulted in a prolonged and costly guerrilla war. The North Vietnamese army was well trained in guerrilla tactics and had the support of a motivated and committed civilian population. This would have made it difficult for the U.S. military to gain control of the territory and maintain the occupation. Furthermore, the USA was aware that a guerrilla war would have caused significant casualties on both sides. The North Vietnamese army was willing to fight to the death, and the U.S. military would have been forced to engage in brutal and bloody urban combat to gain control of the territory. In addition, the USA was aware that a prolonged guerrilla war would have been highly unpopular with the American public. The conflict had already caused significant casualties and resources, and a prolonged guerrilla war would have been seen as an unnecessary and costly venture. Overall, the nature of the Vietnam War as a guerrilla war was a significant reason why the USA did not invade North Vietnam. The potential for a prolonged and bloody conflict, the high casualties on both sides, and the political implications of a prolonged war were too great, and the USA did not want to risk further entanglement in a costly and unpopular war. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to our channel for more content like this.